Hey, what is up guys, it's Diego back with another movie review, something I have not done in a really long time on the channel. Well, I have reviewed some things recently, but in terms of actual dinosaur movies, I haven't really done anything in a while. But that's gonna change because today we're gonna review an actual dinosaur movie. Kind of. Okay, maybe not an actual dinosaur movie, but at least we're not looking at a terrible dinosaur movie made by Asylum, like I did that one time. What was that movie called again? Jurassic World or something? I don't know, at this point it's probably something I've come to suppress. Also, I probably shouldn't cover any Asylum movies. I wouldn't want to get hit with another copyright strike. Today, we're going to take a look at what I consider a gem in the Jurassic Park community. Some of you may not see it this way, as this specific thing I'm talking about has gotten its fair share of criticism. But to me, I think it's overrated and deserves more attention. This thing that I'm talking about today is the fan-made Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic Park Operation Rebirth. This movie was created in 2014 by a YouTuber named JackStoneProductions and was uploaded to his YouTube channel known as JackStoneProductions. And according to IMDb, this was his first and only movie he's ever made, which I'm not sure how true that is. But not only did Jackson direct this movie, he also wrote it with his friend Zach Spots, who not only starred in this fan film, but also has a channel of his own known as Happy Dead Pictures, where he directed his own film called Winterfall, which also stars himself and Jackson Snorek. In case you haven't figured it out already, these two are amateur filmmakers and actors, which is something I will take into consideration while reviewing this movie, along with their budget, since it's understandable you can't make a movie look absolutely amazing if you lack the funds to do so. But although the lack of funds can really affect the quality of a film, I've seen some really good movies out there made by amateur filmmakers that were clearly on a budget. To me, I find that even though some filmmakers are on a budget and lack certain resources, it's interesting to see them work with what they have and improvise certain things to make their movie work, even if it doesn't always look great. So I will judge how the overall movie looks, but to an extent, since again, I will take the fact they didn't have a huge budget for this movie into consideration. But as far as the plot goes, I will be judging hard on that, since you really don't need a whole lot of money to think of an idea for a good story. And if I haven't mentioned already, everyone here plays as themselves, a group of 4 awkward teenagers on an adventure 65 million years in the making. Almost as long as it's been since I've last seen this movie. Okay, that's a little bit of an over-exaggeration, as it's really only been about 2 or 3 years since I've seen this film. And from what I can remember, I didn't think the film was that bad. But has it managed to withstand the test of time? Let's go ahead and find out. So we start the movie off with a random dude running through the woods and fake falling into creeks. He's clearly being pursued by an off-screen dinosaur and continues running frantically as he calls out his friend's name. He eventually finds his friend, who is presumed dead, slumped down against some random building in the middle of the woods as the off-screen dino catches up to our random woodland jogger, and before we can see his death, there's a cut to a black screen and we're greeted with a title card. Hopefully you guys get the reference. After that, this is where the film kinda loses me, as we're assuming, given from what's shown to us in the beginning, that this movie is going to be more of a suspenseful thriller, but throughout the beginning we're shown several different things that mix up the overall tone, having more of a comedic and dramatic feel to it, which is something that they were probably doing on purpose to build up to or to relieve us from the more intense moments of the film, and that in itself is nothing bad and can even make the movie better if done correctly. But the way it's presented here is just abrupt and awkward, as we're presented with a mixed bag of emotions, abrupt transitions, and even an unnecessary comedic scene that I will admit did make me laugh, but we'll get through all of this as we continue. We officially start this movie in a cemetery, as we meet 2 of our main characters, Jackson and Michael. The reason they're at a cemetery is so Jackson can mourn the recent loss of his father, and Michael's just there because he's a real G and wants to be there to support his friends during these tough times. Good on you, Michael. The movie fast forwards to 3 weeks later, where Jackson is doing his own day-to-day things until he runs into an old friend of his, Zach Spots, the guy who helped Jackson write this movie. After briefly reminiscing about old times at camp, Jackson invites Zach to a dinner party he's having with friends that night, to which Zach accepts. I actually kinda like this next scene despite how awkward it is, since it establishes more about our characters. As Jackson arrives late, we're introduced to Nate, who is aggressive and for whatever reason upset at him for being late to dinner.
Way to be late, dude. Real smooth. Shut up, dude.
As the dinner progresses, we learn more about our characters. Nate and Jackson have some sort of feud going on and are pretty hostile towards each other. Michael is the neutral one of the group and just wants everybody to be friends, and Zach is the more shy one who isn't too talkative. This scene also has a moment in it that was obviously put there for comedic effect, but it seems so goofy it almost feels like something straight out of a cartoon. Michael comes into the room talking about how the food he's prepared for his friends is authentic because his grandmother imported it straight from Italy, but his friends call bullshit on that and this happens.
What? Mike, you're not at all Italian.
Well, yeah, but...
Your grandma's right there.
Now, yes, this did get a good chuckle out of me, but again, it's so cartoonish since the grandmother doesn't even say a word to them, and literally seconds later in the next frame, she's not even there anymore. It seems like these guys were at least trying to take their movie seriously, so out of respect for them, so did I. But it's hard to take it seriously after watching something like that. To me, it seems a little unnecessary. Continuing the dinner, Nate and Jackson get into a fight, to which Michael tries to break up, but when he fails to do so, Zach stops that shit real quick. Yeah, not too shy anymore, huh, Zach? The two friends decide to call a truce for now for the sake of the group, and finish planning a trip they've been planning for a bit, agreeing to go to a nearby campground for their road trip that Zach and Jackson used to go to when they were younger. Fast forward to 5 days later, and we see Jackson unable to tell the difference between a phone and an actual alarm clock. We're also greeted with an excessively long scene of Jackson's bathroom routine, along with a self-motivational / possibly vain pep talk.
You are the man.
Jackson's mom suddenly interrupts his routine and expresses her concerns about him going on this trip. Jackson reassures her that there's nothing to be worried about, and before you know it, we're in a road trip montage with copyrighted music! But hey, at least they look like they're having a good time. Then, cut to 8 hours later, I guess the campsite wasn't nearly as close as I thought it was. And Michael is contemplating on getting gas, but then Jackson tells him that the campsite is about an hour and a half away, which doesn't make sense because once they arrive at the campsite, they've completely run out of gas, and Michael says this.
Where's the nearest gas station?
It's at least 3 hours away.
So you're telling me that you're out of gas, and the closest gas station, according to Michael, is 3 hours away, even though Jackson said you were an hour and a half away from the campsite as you were passing a gas station?
There's no town or civilization anywhere from here.
So they say they're nowhere near civilization, even though they just got off an actual road, and there are several other cars in the background there. Guys, just ask those people for help. Anyways, as they're stranded in the middle of quote-unquote nowhere, Nate of course is being a petty little child about it, as the rest of the group tries to think of a solution. Jackson then points out that there's a campsite not too far that should have a working satellite phone they could use to call for help. As they're doing that, Nate again, for whatever reason, continues to be a jerk, as he refuses to help out with setting up camp and blames Jackson for dragging him out there, which escalates drastically. Then Nate proves he's not just a jerk, but an actual asshole.
You know, you're the reason your dad died.
Hey Nate, not the character Nate, I mean the actual Nate that's probably watching this video. I'm sure in real life you're a very nice person and probably very generous and good towards your friends, which is why I'm giving you this fair warning that I'm about to say something very nasty about your character, because not only does he act like a petulant child, he's a major dick. I mean, damn Nate, that was low. So low someone should punch you or something.
Hey!
Oh wow, I did not see that coming. And apparently that punch was enough to completely knock Nate out. And wait, you're just going to leave him there? Are you serious? Wait, you're really just going to leave him there? I guess we're just gonna leave him there, okay. So anyways, after they fail to set up camp for the night, the other three decide to just sleep in the car and still leave Nate out there. I mean, aren't these dinosaur-infested woods? I'm pretty sure Nate's not going to make it through the night with dinosaurs out here. But these guys don't really care and continue the scene without him. Now, all jokes aside, this next scene is probably one of the times where the acting is best, at least from Jackson's part. In the next scene, he tells Michael the story of how he first met Zach at camp, which sounds pretty genuine, seeing how it sounds like he's telling an actual real-life story, which I actually kind of enjoyed. The scene offers a semi-sentimental / comedic tone, which in this case is done better than the one back at the dinner scene. The story is a funny one, and after Jackson's done telling it, he asks Michael how he met Nate, to which Michael admits he doesn't really remember. Especially since Nate doesn't really give Michael a reason to remember since he's not a nice guy at all. But unlike Nate, Michael continues to be a good friend by reminding Jackson that his father's death was not his fault. Then out of nowhere we hear some spooky dinosaur roars in the distance. Hey guys, you should probably bring Nate back into the car. I know I keep emphasizing on the fact that he's a jerk, but I mean, I don't think he should die over it. That seems a little drastic. Anyways, they finally go to sleep, and when they wake up the next morning, we're greeted with a huge surprise. Dinosaurs. And of course a nice little nod back to the original Jurassic Park when we see Alan Grant's reaction to seeing dinosaurs for the very first time. But while that reaction seems genuine, the reaction here is kinda weird and awkward. Except for Nate's, his seems somewhat genuine. Imagine yourself knocked out for the entire night and wake up to see this.
What is that?
I mean, that giant walking pile of CGI would freak me out too. In all seriousness, the effects aren't terrible for a fan film, especially since there are actual movies out there that take themselves seriously with effects that are absolutely terrible. But in this case, again, they were clearly on a budget and couldn't get high quality effects for the film, but working with what they have, the final product is not all that terrible. But after seeing the dinosaurs, they realized that the rumors they mentioned at the dinner scene earlier were true all along. That InGen had been working in these woods near the camp Zach and Jackson used to go to.
Here, let's just forget it. Alright, let's go up to the campsite and see if we can find our satellite phones.
Yes, let's just forget that these woods are overrun by dinosaurs that could potentially kill you. Better yet, let's continue to go into these woods to find a satellite phone that may not even work, instead of getting back to the main road that's literally 10 feet away from you guys, and follow that until we hit civilization. No? You have a death wish? Alright, let's go into these woods. Jackson, Michael, and Nate decide to head towards the camp to find the satellite phone, but Zach decides to stay by the car as it's pretty clear he doesn't want to take any chances in going into the woods.
Hey, can we talk?
Yes, I want to talk about the fact that you punched me so hard that you knocked me unconscious and proceeded to leave me there just yards away from a dinosaur-infested forest. I mean, they were walking all over the place. They could have stepped on me and that would have been another death you would have been responsible for, including your father's. Okay, in all seriousness, Nate attempts to apologize to Jackson for what he said, but Jackson understandably tells Nate to screw off and continues towards the woods. As they depart for the woods, Zach is being spied on in the distance by the cameraman making velociraptor sounds. Oh wait, he notices the cameraman. He's like, yo cameraman, leave us alone. We're just trying to have a camping trip in peace here. Okay, it's not a cameraman, it's a dinosaur. I was lying to you. And this dinosaur soon shows itself to Zach and POVs itself towards him and cuts away just before officially killing him. We meet back up with the rest of the guys as they try to search for the satellite phone in very unusual spots. Yeah, Nate, I don't think it's under that bench. No, Michael, I don't think it's sitting by those trees over there. Okay, listen guys, I think if we're looking for a satellite phone, you should be looking for a building, since it would make sense for it to actually be there. See? Jackson understands. Wait, Jackson, don't walk away from the building. You didn't even look inside. Whatever, it's probably some snake-infested bathroom anyways. They give up their search rather easily and head back to camp, only to find whatever is left of Zach. Then, when the topic of InGen is brought up for at least the third or fourth time, Nate here acts like it's the first time he's heard of it. I mean, come on guys, is there really any other company besides InGen at the moment that's creating dinosaurs? I don't think so. But anyways, Jackson and Nate get into another argument for like the 48th time in this movie before they're interrupted with some more of that raptor squawking. That's enough to send them running towards the woods where they get separated. I say separated as if they did it without realizing it, but really Jackson trips and basically gets left behind by his friends. They even apologized, like, sorry, but we're not coming back for you. They might as well have said something like that. They knew they were leaving him behind. After getting split up, the raptor chases Jackson, to which he bamboozles and gets away from. As Michael and Nate are wandering around the woods, Jackson tries to look for them, dodging all sorts of creatures, including pteranodons and a Dilophosaur. Oh, okay, I guess he didn't really dodge that one. After getting spit with acidic venom from the Dilophosaur, Jackson runs blindly through the woods, until he runs straight into a tree, temporarily knocking him out. I guess you could say knock on wood.
Boo! You suck!
Okay, I'll leave. After Jackson wipes some ketchup off his face, he ends up blacking out, later awakening only to get up and continue walking through the woods. This is where we get another sentimental scene in this movie that I feel like is only really put here just to put some feeling into it, or just make it seem like that, where basically Jackson is monologuing how much he misses his friends. Then he says this.
God, I hope they're okay. Wherever the hell they are on this island.
This has to be a mistake, because they clearly drove to a campsite, in no way making any contact with water, and now Jackson is saying they're on an island. Again, I'm willing to bet this was a mistake, as now adding they are on an island would not make any sense at all.
Just stop!
I mean, maybe, just maybe, they have an expensive and technologically advanced car of some type that changes into a boat once coming into contact with water. Yeah, they didn't show it, and yeah, I might not be able to prove that they do have it, but as long as you're playing that card, you can't prove that they don't have it. Okay, moving on from that ridiculous point that probably did not need to be made at all, night eventually falls and Nate and Michael decide to camp out in a tree while Jackson sleeps on the ground. He soon wakes up later that night to pouring rain. Uh-oh, do I hear an obvious callback coming? The rain, the stomping, the menacing roar in the distance? That's right, guys, no Jurassic Park movie, not even a fan-made one, is complete without the Tyrannosaurus Rex, as she emerges from the woods and hunts for Jackson. As he makes a run for it, the Rex spots him and chases him back into the woods, where he successfully loses her. Cut to next morning, and the two squirrels, Nate and Michael, awaken from their night of sleeping in the trees and are immediately spotted by a raptor. As the raptor wanders away, they take the opportunity to get out of the tree and find a way to avoid the other raptors as they are being hunted by multiple of them in the area. They do this by sneaking through the fog, and at first they do a good job at avoiding them, but ultimately they attract them, causing them to once again, for the millionth time, flee through the woods. And after merely hiding behind a couple of trees, they managed to lose the raptors. I mean, if it was that easy, why didn't Robert Muldoon think of it? If he had used this trick, he wouldn't have been taken down by a clever girl. But even after they lose the two raptors, they run into a third one, to which Michael, being the good friend that he is, distracts so the raptor can go after him rather than going after Nate. Then, immediately after, Nate goes looking for Michael, who is on the ground and I guess injured or something? He claims that he fought that raptor off, but I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that one, Mike. We meet back up with Jackson, who continues his journey to the second campsite until he runs into a Triceratops that ends up chasing him briefly. He gets away and eventually runs into the two men that we saw earlier in the beginning of the film. We find out they're InGen officials who were sent there to operate on a new top secret mission known as Operation Rebirth. Apparently, according to the documents that Jackson reads, the government wanted to shut down InGen after the tragic events of Jurassic Park and the Lost World. I mean, I don't know why, it's not like anybody died or anything. Anyways, InGen officials were sent there to basically continue their work on creating dinosaurs. The reason why they chose that specific spot was because this park is apparently abandoned and no suspicious behavior would be suspected. This doesn't really make sense, as there isn't really a reason why they want to continue making dinosaurs. Before, it was to exploit them in a theme park environment for profit, but now they're just kind of roaming in an abandoned park, and that's about it. I mean, what's the motive here? Anyways, Jackson loots some weapons off the dead InGen people, including a couple of pistols and a couple of smoke grenades. Oh, and he also finds a satellite phone, calls 911, and calls for a helicopter? You can do that? Also, I just wanted to point out, apparently this incompetent 911 operator doesn't seem to believe there is a park roaming with dinosaurs, even though this is supposed to be part of the same universe in which a Tyrannosaurus Rex roamed the streets of San Diego and caused a shit ton of destruction. But nope, dinosaurs are just hard to believe, I guess. But it's not like it matters, because the 911 operator just takes Jackson's word for it and sends the helicopter anyways. Then, out of absolutely nowhere, the friends finally find and run towards each other in a scene that's clearly a callback to Jurassic Park 3. You know, when Eric and his parents find each other, but just 100 times more corny. I'm not even joking, this has to be one of the cheesiest scenes of the entire movie. But at least it's a happy moment in the film, but one that is short-lived, as the trio of friends now have to outrun a stampede of stegosaurs that are being chased by a pack of raptors. Oh yeah, then Jackson fires 2 shots, then just ditches a gun. Okay, good idea. They eventually get away from the herd and take this time to check their kill streaks. Apparently in just those 2 shots, Jackson managed to kill 2 raptors out of 4. Michael managed to take down 1 as well, leaving 1 more raptor. With only 1 more shot left, they decide to book it, but then this happens.
No, we cannot run it.
Yes, we can, Nate. Come on. I gotta do this. He's not gonna stop until he kills someone.
Wow, Nate, I'm gonna be honest. In the entirety of this movie, I haven't really been the nicest person to you. I guess because I've only really seen you as a jerk. But it looks like you've changed, since you're willing to risk your life for your friends. It looks like you've finally become a good person, and for that, I feel like you've redeemed yourself, Nate. As I think you are a selfless person and a good friend that I believe should— Oh, he did. Why, Nate? That was so pointless. Yeah, Nate fucking dies, and dies for literally no reason. Nate was obviously doing this to distract the raptor so Jackson could get away and I guess save the last bullet or whatever. But Jackson just ends up using that last bullet to shoot the raptor that just killed Nate. And apparently it only takes 1 bullet to take a raptor down. I mean, if you already knew that, why didn't you just use that last bullet to shoot the last raptor before it had killed Nate? I mean, if you were so worried that you wouldn't have landed that shot, you've already proven to us that you are apparently a great shot since you really didn't have a problem shooting those first two raptors, each with one and only one bullet during that whole Stampede scene. Oh my god.
Why'd you do that? You didn't have to do that, Nate!
I mean, yeah, Nate, you really didn't. I mean, this whole thing was rather pointless. Anyways, Nate dies, it's Jackson's fault, let's move on. Jackson and Mike have another encounter with another dinosaur, blah blah blah, they run away, blah blah blah, and run into another raptor? God damn it, I thought we already killed all of these. But at least they put the smoke grenades to good use. Anyways, after that, the friends find a car that we saw earlier when we met back up with Jackson, but I guess he didn't notice it till now? And as that's happening, a fight breaks out between a Spinosaurus and a Tyrannosaurus Rex out of nowhere. The fight doesn't last too long, and eventually the car catches the attention of the T-Rex. A chase ensues, they lose the T-Rex, but then crash the car. Michael and Jackson then stumble their way out of the car and into the woods, where they are finally greeted to safety. The movie fades to black, and we finally hear the helicopter arriving to rescue our survivors. You know what I'm just now realizing? Putting these two guys' names together literally makes Michael Jackson. And I never once made a joke about it. Oh well, whatever. Let's just finish this movie up. We're almost done here. Anyways, after their ordeal, Michael and Jackson pay a visit to their two now deceased friends at the cemetery, where Jackson says his final goodbyes, offering a scene that's actually kind of sad. Then we cut to the ending of the film, where we are now at InGen headquarters, where the executives reveal that they have more plans for their top secret mission, Operation Rebirth. Despite the fact this movie ended on a cliffhanger, there isn't a sequel or any continuation of this story at all, which I found a bit disappointing. If you look up Jackson's name on IMDb, it shows all of the movies he's apparently a part of, and on one of the movies called Jurassic Park Island Survival, Jackson's labeled as a producer, and if you click on the actual movie profile and look up the full cast and crew, both Jackson and his friend Zach are labeled as associate producers. But according to the production notes from IMDb Pro, the last update of this film was on September 9th, 2017. And if you try to look up Island Survival anywhere, you won't find much on it. But given from the pictures, the movie looks like it has a bigger budget to work with, as it looks really good. That is, if it's an actual thing, of course. Again, there isn't much on it, not even a release date, but it looks like it has a bunch of other titles based on the region you're living in. And for the US, which is where I live, it's labeled as Jurassic Park Prime Survival. However, if you look that name up, you get another Jurassic Park fan film released around 8 years ago by completely different people that's under the exact same name. So basically what I'm trying to say is there isn't a whole lot on this mysterious Jurassic Park fan film, and it's likely we won't see a sequel to Operation Rebirth at all. So, what did I think of this film? So in terms of plot, there was really nothing special. It's pretty generic as there are several movies with the same overall premise this one had, but I liked how they tried to create their own story when it came to InGen, even though it didn't work out as well as I would have liked. There didn't seem to be a real motive to continuing their work, making this whole operation seem kinda pointless. Like, I get that you want to continue your work and are willing to hide from the government to do that work, but what do you gain from it? Again, there's no real explanation, but the fact that they were trying to do something different with InGen is interesting in itself. Overall, the plot wasn't terrible, but just kinda generic with a few issues in regards to motivation. The characters in this movie were actually kind of entertaining to watch. Yeah, as far as acting goes, it's obviously pretty bad, but you know what, I feel like they gave a solid effort, so I'll give them that. Again, they were amateur actors, and before you completely judge them, just know that the majority of the YouTubers out there are also amateur actors, and I bet you anything their first videos where they acted out a skit or a sketch was pretty bad as well. But it's how they started, and how you start shouldn't be forgotten, as it shows how far you progressed since then. But overall, the characters themselves, as corny as they were pretty fun to watch. For the most part, they were developed and established decently, but the most frustrating character had to have been Nate, as not only do we never find out why he really doesn't like Jackson, but he's so back and forth when it comes to not liking him. He started out not liking him, which got to the point where he just took things way too far. Then he tried to be sincere and apologetic, only to become angry and upset at Jackson once again, to finally deciding to be a good person and unnecessarily sacrificing his life for Jackson. He just doesn't seem to make up his goddamn mind. But overall, as far as the characters and acting goes, it was decent enough for their first movie. Okay, I obviously had to talk about the dinosaurs themselves and the effects that brought them to life. I did say when it came to the effects and settings, I would be lenient as they obviously had a budget when it came to this film. That being said, I have to admit for a film like this, the effects weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. Don't get me wrong, they're still bad compared to something like the actual Jurassic Park movies, but for their first film, they're surprisingly decent. Yeah, some parts look better than others, but they used what they had and the final product doesn't look completely awful. And I thought it was very clever of them to use their surroundings as a setting for this movie, as it was pretty clear they just used an actual nearby park and forest as their setting. So nice job using what you had, guys. So this is the part I dislike the most. The editing in this movie is atrocious. I wasn't expecting amazing big budget movie quality editing, but a lot of the mistakes that were made with it could have been easily prevented. These include abrupt transitions, loud music drowning out the dialogue, and the noises of the environments they were working in interfering with the overall movie. All of these could have easily been fixed, even with the free editor, which I'm assuming they were using. So yeah, that's pretty much my thought on the overall editing. I guess they just need to work a little bit more when it comes to it, spend a little bit more time on it. But yeah, that's just what I think about that. So what are my overall thoughts on this film? Well, taking some things into consideration, I thought this film was simply okay, at least from a logical standpoint. It's nothing truly amazing or original as far as plot or characters go, the effects are somewhat decent for their first movie, and the editing wasn't that good. But from an entertainment standpoint, I saw this movie as a fun little film. I myself was pretty entertained by it, and if you're a Jurassic Park fan and are trying to kill an hour, I definitely recommend this movie to you. Hell, even if you're into creature features and are just looking for a fun little movie to watch, this is a perfect one for you. And if I were to rate this movie, I think I'd just give it a solid 6.5, because I don't think it really earned a 7, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that it was so bad it deserves a 6. So I'm gonna meet in the middle and just give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. And I really mean it, you should watch this film. It's a nice product of a passion project based on a movie that several people in this community enjoy. And it's nice to see a different perspective of it in the form of a fan film. Luckily for you, you can watch it here on YouTube for free. I'll leave a link to the movie in the description below. And while you're at it, go ahead and check out Jackson's channel as well, where you can find all the other stuff that he does other than making movies. But yeah, that was my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see ya. You thought it was the end of the video, but it's not. Yeah, you're probably wondering what I just sprung up on you. Basically, this is just going to be a new added segment to the end of every video, pretty much talking to you guys about some of the new things and updates that are happening in regards to the channel, given that there are any updates and news in regards to the channel. But today there are, not only introducing this new segment, but telling you guys about my New Year's resolution. So as you guys know, 2020 has rolled around, and not only is it a new year, but it's also a new decade. So obviously there's going to be some changes that are going to be rolling around in the channel, and in case you guys haven't noticed, there already have been a lot of changes to the channel, but there's going to be a little bit more. And one of the changes slash resolutions that I wanted to start doing is to be more interactive with you guys. In the past, I've never really taken time to really talk to you guys outside of the channel, which is something I really want to change. So as a result, I'm going to go ahead and start being more active on my social media. I'm going to go ahead and set up a Discord, and I'm going to start live streaming. So you can go ahead and follow me on my social media. Those links will be down in the description below. As far as the Discord goes, I'm not sure if it's going to be ready by the time this video comes out, but if it is, I'll go ahead and put the link to that in the description down below. And as far as live streaming goes, I'm just going to go ahead and live stream here on YouTube so you can find me anytime. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I just really want to tell you guys some of the new things that are going to be happening with the channel, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more reviews and other cool dinosaur stuff I post on this channel. That's all I have to say for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and please have a nice day.